I married the most dangerous man in the realm to survive. And on our wedding night, he ripped my dress open like he was claiming his territory, then ran his hand across the scars they gave me.
What are you doing?
I know what they did to you. And why. I know who you are, Talia.
That night, he had awakened something powerful and ancient. But what? I still remember what he did right after we got married. Alpha Damon strode down the platform, stopping briefly to shake my former Alpha's hand. They exchanged no words, but it felt disrespectful to me, like a good doing business with you vibe. I wondered for the first time how much he had offered for me. It couldn't have been very much, as I was nothing but a lowly slave for the pack. More than likely, they were probably just glad to be rid of me. Why did Alpha Damon agree to marry me? What's his motive? He hadn't even kissed me. How could he want me? And, what I feared most to ask, what exactly did he want me for? Keeping my eyes down and my feet shuffling forward, I felt bad for whoever they replaced me with in the future. A deep sigh interrupted my thoughts, and I glanced up to see my mate's annoyed face. Can you move any faster? I'd like to get home sometime today if that's okay with you, he snapped. Sorry, I mumbled. He rolled his eyes. Your things are packed and already loaded in the car. Let's go. He reached for my arm, and I instinctively flinched back. It wasn't entirely his fault. I'd been beaten since the age of 5. Fast movements tended to cause me to react like that. Whether he knew of how I was treated here or not, though, he stopped reaching for me and dropped his hand to his side. Should I change first? I asked him. Why? I blinked at him. Am I supposed to show up to your pack in a wedding dress? Why does it matter? It didn't really. I was stalling, not wanting to be in a near personal space like a car with him. Look, I've come and got what I needed here. Now I'm going home. If you're not in the car in 2 minutes, you can walk to Dark Howlers. With that, he turned and walked away from me. Wow, he's a real charmer. I know he's a bit rough around the edges. But his wolf is really nice, mumbled Sylvie in my head. That's supposed to make me feel better? Yes. My turn to roll my eyes. Dutifully, I followed my husband out of the pack house to a waiting black SUV. He was already seated in the driver's seat, tapping his fingers impatiently on the steering wheel. I climbed in somewhat awkwardly, thanks to the skirt of my dress, and shut my door. Glancing in the back seat, I saw a single suitcase. That would be my thing, as sad as that was. Clicking my seatbelt into place, I stared out the windshield. We weren't moving. 2 minutes passed, then 3. And 5 minutes later, we were still parked in the drive of the pack house. I broke the silence. Aren't we leaving? I asked him. Yes, as soon as these idiots get the rest of your stuff. I looked at him quizzically. What? He jabbed a thumb over his shoulder, indicating my suitcase. I actually laughed. That is the rest of my stuff. Now it was his turn to look confused. That is all you have? Yeah, I replied. Where are the rest of your clothes? They're in there. I don't have much. I shrugged. Much? You don't have anything? He barked. I shrugged again. He continued to look at me with an undecipherable expression before his expression hardened again. Whatever, he grumbled. Finally, he started the car and put it in the drive. Leaning back in my seat, I started out at the houses passing us by, giving way to more and more trees until we left the red moon behind completely. Turning onto the highway, I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. I can't believe it. I know. We're actually out of the red moon. We don't ever have to go back, Talia. We're free. Sylvie whooped in my head. Free! Somehow this didn't feel like freedom. I'd gone from being a slave to a Luna in less than a day, to a man who might actually murder me, as he'd done so many others. Even as a slave, I'd heard all the stories of Alpha Damon. He was feared near and far for his ability to murder. He'd wiped out entire packs. He had no mercy, no heart. He was actually known as the Heartless Alpha. And here I was, sitting in a car with him, accompanying him to his pack as his Luna and wife. Or maybe he had different plans for me entirely. It felt surreal. Should I speak to him? Try to make conversation? I floundered around in my head, searching for something to ask him that didn't involve his murder streak, or how many people he had decapitated. Hours passed. It was dark outside now, the trees a dark blur as we sped past. Suddenly, it popped into my head and out of my mouth before I could stop it. Why didn't you kiss me? I blurted out. Alpha Damon glanced at me and then back to the road. Silence. Alpha, I tried again. Nothing. I'd been so caught up in the shock before, I hadn't even minded that he didn't kiss me. But now, as my reality began to really set in, it seemed important to know why. If he hadn't married me for love, then what had he married me for? Why did this matter so much to me anyway? He was a cold-blooded murderer. I shouldn't even be thinking about kissing him, naive mate Bond. However, it seemed my mouth was not connected to my brain as I whispered, "I'm your mate." Enough! He snapped loudly. I flinched away from him, hurt. Naive mate Bond. I didn't speak a single word for the rest of the trip. My gaze traveled between the window and my shoes. I refused to look at him. An hour ago, he told me we'd crossed into his land. I'd simply nodded. Was I being disrespectful? Probably. But he wasn't chatting me up either way, so I didn't care. We're here. He pulled up to a huge 10-foot gate that looked to be made of iron. 2 guards were stationed on our side, and 2 more just beyond. All 4 men were huge, but nowhere near to their alpha. The nearest guard gave a signal, and the gates swung open. Despite my qualms about this situation, I was impressed as we drove further towards the pack house. Most of the area was covered in trees, but I could spot houses in the dense forestry. Here and there, quaint cottages were dotted around with cute balconies and porch swings, gardens, and stone walk paths. I even spotted a few garden gnomes, painted grins frozen in place, peeking out from manicured lawns. It was perfect. Almost too perfect. Like the whole town had been, manufactured. 15 minutes later, Alpha Damon pulled up to what could only be the pack house. The driveway was a big semicircle of stone bricks. Cars were parked in a line along the edge, jeeps and SUVs, almost militaristic. I took a moment to take it all in, and despite everything, I was awestruck. The pack house loomed before us, massive and commanding, at least 5 stories tall and just as wide. It wasn't just big, it was fortress-like, a place built to protect. Or imprison. Are you going to sit there and stare all night? I'm tired, grumbled my mate. I shook my head, speedily opening my door and stepping out. I hadn't moved much over the course of the long car ride, and my legs were super stiff. I took a second to stretch them while still admiring the house. Upon closer inspection, I noticed the whole place was constructed of deep redwood. I bet it looked even better in the daylight. Talia. It took me a minute for him to catch my attention. Nobody used my name. I'd always been called slave or mutt or other various derogatory terms. Yes, I'm coming. Just let me get my stoop. Don't bother, but I'll get you some new clothes tomorrow. You can throw that suitcase out and everything in it. He began to walk to the house, but stopped when I opened the back door of the SUV. He sighed loudly, clearly irritated. Opening the suitcase, I dug through the clothes that had been packed. Really, they were just rags until I found my objective. Closing the door, I clutched my locket. I placed it around my neck and joined him. "What's that?" he asked. "It's a locket." He raised an eyebrow. Well, it's the only thing I have that's really mine. I don't remember who gave it to me, but I had it before I came to the Red Moon. So, I trailed off. No, I couldn't remember the face of the person who had gifted it to me, but sometimes I swore I could hear a voice. Soft, warm, distant. It echoed through my mind like a memory just out of reach. This, my girl, is the key to your past. Damon feigned no interest. Okay. He turned on his heel and I followed him, mentally rolling my eyes. He really was bad. He didn't hold the door for me, which I expected. Glancing around as I followed him through the door, I was again awestruck by how big this place was. Paintings decorated the walls that I'd have to inspect nearer later. The floor was carpeted a deep purple, contrasting nicely with the wooden interior. Antique-looking furniture was placed vicariously along the walls. This way. This floor has the common room, the kitchen, game area, and a room we use for alpha meetings. It also has a dining room for meals. The second floor belongs to my Gamma and his family. The third floor is for my Beta and his family. The fourth floor is for us, and the fifth floor is the library. That was the most he'd said to me since we'd met. Wait, us? I squeaked. He stopped on the stairs and looked down at me. As if he wasn't tall enough, this was even more intimidating. Yes, us. You are my wife and Luna of this pack, but don't worry, you have your own room. Before I could ask, he trotted up the stairs, me scrambling to keep up. I was feeling lightheaded and gasping for breath by the time we reached our floor. Years of being starved for long periods of time will do that to you, I guess. I shuffled down the hall, nearly running into the back of him when he stopped abruptly in front of a door. "This is your room. My room is across the hall." He pointed to a door adjacent to mine. "Clothes will arrive tomorrow for you." Without another word, he opened his door and stepped inside, closing it on my shocked face. Numbly, I opened my own door and stepped inside. I don't know why I expected it to be small. Old habits, I guess. It was huge. The floor was plush, soft grey carpet. A king-size bed was set against the wall, begging for a good night's sleep. Across from the bed was an old-fashioned fireplace, already lit and filling the room with warmth and a soft glow. A neatly stacked pile of wood was placed to its side. White curtains were drawn across glass doors that looked to open to a balcony. I assumed the door to my right was a bathroom, and the double wooden doors led to a wardrobe. Again, not what I had imagined. But then we didn't imagine we'd have our own room, did we? Sylvie grumbled. "No, but it's better than sleeping with him, right?" "Maybe. But what was the point of all this if we're not going to be together?" I didn't have an answer to that. It did seem pointless. He acted as if a mate and Luna, let alone a wife, was the last thing he wanted. Maybe it's better this way. He is. Him, after all. "I need to bond with my mate too, Talia. What if he doesn't let us?" She whimpered. "We live here, Sylvie. Sooner or later we'll meet his wolf. I guess." It wasn't the same thing, I knew. Sylvie needed to make her own bond with the Alpha's wolf. Play together, hunt together. The thought of her not being able to do those things made her extremely sad. "He has a name, you know," she said. "It feels weird calling him Damon, though. What if he doesn't like it? What if no one else calls him that? You're overthinking things." "I don't think so." Yawning, I slipped off my shoes and made my way to the bed. A huge grin plastered my face as I lay down. I'd never slept in a real bed before. My sleeping arrangements at Red Moon consisted of a couple dirty mattresses filled with holes on the floor. Comparatively, this was heaven. Having nothing else to sleep in, I arranged the skirts of my dress under the covers and fell asleep in minutes. I woke up to the intoxicating scent of forest and dark chocolate filling my senses. My wolf Sylvie stirred restlessly in my mind, practically vibrating with excitement. "Mate, mate!" she howled, her voice echoing through my consciousness with an intensity that made my eyes fly open. The room was bathed in the amber glow of the dying fireplace. Shadows danced across the plush grey carpet. But what caught my breath wasn't the luxurious surroundings. It was the figure sitting in the armchair beside my bed. Damon, my husband, my mate, the Alpha who had barely spoken 2 words to me since our wedding. He leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees, those haunting blue eyes fixated on mine. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it, and his white dress shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, revealing more of that tantalizing tattoo I'd glimpsed during our ceremony. "You're awake," he said, his deep voice sending shivers down my spine. I sat up slowly, acutely aware that I was still wearing my wedding dress, now wrinkled and twisted around my legs. "How long have you been sitting there?" "Long enough." His gaze traveled over me, and I felt heat bloom in my cheeks. I couldn't sleep. "Your scent." He trailed off, jaw clenching as if he was fighting some internal battle. The air between us was thick with pheromones, making it hard to think clearly. Sylvie practically panted in my head, desperate to get closer to our mate. But something in Damon's expression held me back. Without warning, his hands moved to the neckline of my wedding dress. The sound of fabric tearing filled the room as he ripped the delicate material, exposing my bruised shoulders and collarbone. I gasped and scrambled backward, my heart hammering against my ribs. "What are you doing?" I cried, clutching the torn fabric to my chest. But his eyes weren't filled with lust or violence. His gaze traced the purple and black marks marring my pale skin. "I need to examine you," he said suddenly, his voice rough. My heart skipped a beat, heat pooling low in my stomach at his words. "Examine me?" He stood abruptly, towering over me even more than usual. "Not what you're thinking," he said, though his eyes darkened as they met mine. "I need to see what they did to you." The romantic haze cleared instantly. "What?" "I can smell it on you. The pain." His hands clenched into fists at his sides. "I need to see how badly they hurt you." Fear crept up my spine, Not of him, but of what he might discover. Damon, I don't think... It's not a request, Talia. His alpha voice came through, commanding and absolute, but there was something else beneath it. Something that sounded almost... protective. My wolf whimpered, torn between submission to our alpha and the shame of revealing our scars. I nodded slowly, not trusting my voice. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Barked Sylvie. Shut up, I shouted in my mind. Come here, Damon commanded. I approached slowly, bare feet silent on the carpet. When I was close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body, he finally looked at me. Turn around. I obeyed, my hands trembling as I faced away from him. I felt him move closer, his body heat radiating onto my back. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then I felt the softest touch against my shoulder blade. His fingertips touched one of the scars on my back. Who did this to you? His voice was deadly quiet. It doesn't matter now, I whispered. It matters to me. His touch moved to another scar, this one deeper, more jagged. Tell me their name. I shivered, not from cold, but from the raw possessiveness in his voice. Alpha Edward. But Damon, please don't. He tortured you. It wasn't a question. His fingers continued their exploration, mapping the damage done to my body with a gentleness that brought tears to my eyes. I survived, I said simply. He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't respond. Then slowly he led me to the bed. Lie down, he said, on your stomach. I obeyed, my pulse racing as I settled onto the bed. I felt him sit beside me, the mattress dipping under his weight. I'm going to remove this, he said, his hands at the tie of my robe. I need to see your back fully. The silk slipped away, leaving me exposed beneath his gaze. I buried my face in the pillow, shame burning through me. Good goddess, he said under his breath. I thought he was revolted by the scars, but he was intrigued. How did you get these? He ran his finger over a particularly deep scar. Silver, I mumbled. Silver what? A blade? He asked. I nodded mutely. He traced the silver scars, whispering, That's why they did this to you. They knew exactly what you are. What do you mean? What am I? I gasped, my voice breaking. His blue eyes met mine, filled with a mixture of anger and something that looked almost like pity. Tell me what they did to you, he said intensely. I can't, I murmured back to him, fearing retribution if I acknowledged my abuse. Tell me, he insisted. I must know every detail. I froze, wondering if I could trust this alpha with my story. Although, what did I have to lose by being honest about my dark past? I couldn't make up my mind.
Talia, tell me.
It doesn't matter, I shouted. This is just what happens to the lowest Omega.
He grabbed me by the shoulders, peering into my eye, and asked,
Who did this to you?
Tears welled up in my eyes as I started to tell him where it all began. It doesn't take much. Alpha Edward is an alcoholic. It's really difficult for werewolves to get drunk, which means you have to drink heavily to feel the effects. This means he probably had a fight with Luna Layla about his drinking, which means she locked him out of their room, which means he has come down to take out his anger on me. Just an average Tuesday in the pack house. I know the drill. I'm already on my feet waiting for him. Alpha Edward, what can I do for you? I ask with my eyes looking at the floor. I keep my hands clasped in front of me, trying to look as small as possible. Without a word, a whiskey bottle whizzes past my ear and smashes against the wall above my cot. I flinch and can't help but start to tremble and hug myself. Whatever is about to happen, it's going to be worse than usual. He lunges forward and grabs me by the throat with both hands. I feel tears coming to my eyes as the lack of oxygen turns the edges of my vision dark. I desperately claw at his hands, trying to escape his grip, but it's no use. He picks me up by the neck, so I'm at face level with him. His eyes are pitch, indicating his wolf ruckus is at the surface. His breath stinks because of alcohol. I start gagging and choking from the lack of oxygen. Without warning, he throws me I can feel something wet soaking through my shredded shirt. I don't dare move and make him even madder. I feel my ribs snap when his foot makes contact. One of his feet lands on my jaw. I feel a sickening snap rattle in my brain. The metallic taste instantly fills my mouth. Alpha Edward has been using me as his punching bag for years, but this was way more intense than it has ever been before. In the past couple of years, he started dipping the whip in wolfsbane, which makes me heal slower, so now I have gnarly scars across my back and arms. I manage to eke out. My voice is small and garbled. He abruptly stops and walks out of the room. He comes back a moment later with the whip and starts lashing my back relentlessly. The whip is dripping with wolfsbane. The lashes, combined with the glass shards still in my back, combined with the wolfbane, are too much. My vision turns blurry and I pass out. Numbness surrounds me. Is this what being dead is like? It's peaceful. After what seems like forever, I'm able to open my eyes and find I'm alone in soft comfort in a brightly lit, clean room. I'm in the Pack Hospital. I need to leave before the Alpha finds me outside the dungeon. I can barely move my body. Every move causes excruciating pain. I start to panic, making the beeps in the room become faster. Oh, I'm hooked up to a bunch of machines. I try to figure out how to unhook them so no one hears the noises. Too late. I hear people in the hallway getting closer. I try to sit up. I need to ignore the pain. I have to escape. I slowly slide off the side of the bed. My legs were wobbly. The tubes and wires sticking out of me prevent me from getting too far. The door opens, and the Pack doctor comes in with the nurse. The doctor is an older person.
Talia, you're awake. Let's get you back on the mat, shall we?
The doctor says gently. He and the nurse come to either side of me and reach out to hold my arms. A deep growl escapes my chest. Don't touch me, I snap, shaking them off. My voice is scratchy and raw, and my mouth feels like 1,000 needles are poking into it.
It's all right, Talia. No one is going to hurt you here. We're trying to help you heal. Let's get you back to it, and I'll get you a drink of water.
The doctor raises his hands in surrender. I look at him hesitantly before the nurse hands me a cup of water with a straw. The water feels good on my throat. The doctor sits in the chair beside the bed as the nurse checks my vitals and starts messing with the tubes and wires attached to me.
Talia, you had surgery to remove hundreds of shards of glass from your back. We also had to reset some ribs, your jaw, and you had a lot of wolfsbane in your blood. We gave you a transfusion to clear it from your system, so you could heal. You're lucky your wound isn't so serious.
Sure about that last part, doctor? I think to myself.
When the Pack realized breakfast had not been prepared, Tony went to get you and then found you on the ground in your, room.
I don't remember ever being treated by a doctor before. He closes the folder and tucks his pen into his shirt pocket.
Well, I know you haven't had a chance to look in the mirror yet, but when you do, you may find you look a little different. Don't be alarmed. I've done as many tests as I could think of, and it is not medically related.
Yes, sir? I assume he means I'm healing faster, but why did he need me to look in the mirror? Why not just tell me? I look at the nurse who is staring at me. When she realizes I caught her, her eyes dart away. What's that about? Okay, lady. Rude?
I'll leave you now.
You can go in the bathroom and wash up. Just take that bowl with the IV solution with you. There are lounge shorts and fresh underwear in the bag. You need to leave the hospital gown on until your back heals. All right?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Diane. She nods and leaves the room. It's the first time in my life people have been kind to me. I mean, I think it's part of their job, but still. All I have known so far were insults, physical misery, and hard work. Never any kindness. Never any. I feel like I can trust the doctor, but I'm still wary of Nurse Diane. The way she stared at me just now makes me uncomfortable. I pick up the duffel bag and go to the bathroom. I avoid looking in the mirror. Everything in the bathroom is fresh. There's a shower, but I'm worried the pressure of the water will hurt my back. I decided to fill the tub halfway and get in. The water is warm and soothing. There's a washcloth and a fresh bar of soap. I clean myself until the water is gross. I drain the tub, wipe out the ring of dirt around the edge, and fill it again. The water is not nearly as dirty as this time when I finish washing. I find it hard to raise my hands, but I don't want to call the nurse to help me. I gently wash my hair, dry off, and wrap the soft towel around my head. There's a toothbrush and a small tube of paste on the shelf by the sink. I'm living in the lap of luxury in the Pack Hospital. I pick them up and start brushing my teeth. I can't avoid it anymore. I need to look in the mirror. I finally worked up the courage to take a peek. What I see makes me drop the toothbrush. My face is still covered in bruises, but that's not what made me drop the toothbrush. The iris of my left eye is violet, not like a shade of blue that could be a little purple in the right light. No, my right pupil is still the drab gray I'm used to, but my left pupil looks crazy. I blink my eyes hard a few times. Still the same. I tried rubbing my eye, but it doesn't make a difference. There's no mistaking it. My eye is bright, practically glowing. Violet. As I tilt my head to the side to brush my hair, I notice a chunk of my hair has changed color. Instead of my normal, mousy brown, it is silvery gray. Okay, seriously now, and what is going on? What is happening to me? Is this a trick? Is there bleach in the shampoo or something? If it is a trick, it isn't funny. I pick up the bottle and smell it. It smells like strawberries, not bleach. Weird. I have never heard of a wolf's eye or hair color changing when they are coming of age, but that's what the doctor thinks is happening. Diane comes in just after lunch with paperwork and pamphlets for me. She hands me another little bag.
Just a little something to help you stay incognito until you are finished healing.
Thank you for everything. There's a round hat in the bag. How do I look? I ask as I model them for her. She giggles at my poses.
You're a star, darling.
Maybe she isn't so bad after all. She gives me a gentle hug and sends me on my way. I have another 2 hours before I need to start prepping dinner. I decided to take my new clothes to my room and clean up the mess down there before this. Something smells different as I walk down the hallway of the dungeon. Instantly, I freeze. I hear 2 sets of footsteps coming down the hall. I can smell Alpha Edward's scent getting closer. I don't know who the other scent belongs to. Instinctively, I scramble and stand in the middle of the room just as they get to the doorway. He leans against the frame and crosses his arms. I can feel my whole body tremble as he stares. My eyes are glued to the ground. I do not want him to see my new eye color shining through. Can I help you, Alpha Edward?
That little stunt you pulled cost me a lot of money. And when you cost me money, you cost my whole family money.
I'm sorry, sir. I apologize. Although I have no idea what stunt he is talking about. I look up just enough to see Marcy, the Alpha's daughter, is also standing in the doorway. Marcy takes a step closer, and I can feel tears starting to sting the corners of my eyes as my arms shake uncontrollably. How am I gonna face her at school? I haven't had a conversation with her since her mom made me live in the dungeon anyway. But as far as I know, she had no idea I live down here now. She is going to tell everyone for sure.
And do you know how disgusting the food has been for the past 2.5 days?
I just nod, still looking at the ground. I'm not trying to argue with a lunatic. It isn't my fault I had to have surgery. He's the one who broke a bottle and threw me into the broken pieces. If he hadn't, I would have been just fine. I would have been able to bounce back the next day and make breakfast like I was supposed to, even if I was banged up. There is a pause and he finally growls,
Where did all this furniture come from? Did you steal it?
"No, sir. It was here when I got back from the hospital wing. I don't know who brought it.
You owe me, Talia. You also owe whoever turned your room into this comfortable space. You'll work in the pack house until you pay back every cent for the rest of your life if necessary. No more school. You don't need education to cook and clean.
He uses his alpha tone. I cannot disobey. With those words, the small flame of hope in my heart extinguishes. I don't get paid, so I don't know how I could ever pay back any debt. Luna Layla told me years ago that the room in the dungeon was payment enough for my services. I am less than an Omega now. I am a slave.
Marcy, teach her a lesson for wasting our money.
Yes, Alpha.
Tears stream down my face as the reality of my fate sets in.
Damon growled deeply and said no. You're not just any Omega or a slave.
His next words sent chills down my spine. Talia, what is Damon about to reveal? Why did he really choose me as his bride? Did he have good intentions? Or did he have some hidden motive behind our forbidden...
Find out what happens next. Install the Pocket FM app in the next 1 minute to get free access to 22 episodes of The Alpha's Bride. Hurry before the offer disappears. Install the app and enjoy free episodes now.